Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. We now move on to the second round of discussion. We move on to Mr. Asoka Begunwardana, Chairman of the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency. You have the JVP and you have the UPFA trying to impress about the election manifestos and why people should vote for them. Have you at least now made a decision, Mr. Asoka Begunwardana?
I mean, it's clear that if this situation prevails, then there's no need for us to go to the polling booth and vote.
So there is no direction from both political parties?
Yes, not only these two, but the other major party as well.
What would you do differently at the polling
Well, actually,
booth?
I was expecting something else from these four parties altogether. UPFA, from their side, they should have adequately stated what things went wrong and how they are going to rectify it. It's only to the political reforms to a certain extent only they have stated something, but what's happening on the platform is something else. At the stage, it's exactly the opposite of what they have mentioned in the manifesto is now they are marketing right now. So there's a huge contradiction between these two. And basically, the development programs they implemented, they had a rush program. They agree that they have done certain mistakes, and they have suggested that certain reforms should be made. But those reforms they are suggesting and the promises are not in a line. Those are two separate things. That's the issue we need to face. And from the JVP issue, I just need to respond to the earlier statement. Well, if JVP is to be in the opposition, then what they have mentioned in the manifesto, it's not a manifesto of a opposition, a party of should be in opposition. It's a manifesto of a party which is going to govern the country. So yeah, if they feel that well they will be continuing in the opposition, then they should have at least expressed what they are going to do as opposition political party. It's not stated. And the most critical issue is now groups like TNA and JVP, they may have certain critical seats in the parliament, which will lead for neither two major parties to form a government on their own. There won't be any simple majority in the parliament. So that means that we are going back to the last 6 months. Neither party can form a government because JVP and TNA is planning to be in the opposition. That's exactly the reason why we should not vote for JVP, because if we vote for JVP and if they are going to be in the opposition, then the stability of the country will be challenged unless two major parties join and form a national government. So that's why we need to understand that after 50 years, JVP should understand the ground realities and reform, and to be ready to be a part of the government. For that, they should have a constructive proposal. They had 40 MPs, they had 4 ministers, but they proved that they cannot govern, they can contribute to govern the country. So that was the issue we have with respect to JVP and UNP. I mean, Maitri Palnak Stavatak is their manifesto during the presidential election. So it's not a follow-up or continuation or elaboration of that document. It's a completely different one. So it's a crazy situation now. I don't think none of these four parties have adequately understood their role in the present country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Begunwardana. We now move on to Mr. Shiral Lakhtilaka, UPFA nationalist candidate. Allegations are still being levelled at the UPFA nomination list, Mr. Lakhtilaka. You said that you are the president's man. Are you satisfied with the nomination list?
I am not in a position to give an answer for that, because I am not privy to those selection processes. And we know that after the famous statement by the president, he said he always allowed to the majority of the central committee to decide, although he has a different view, right? So it's an internal democracy. So president allowed to happen for the first time in Sri Lankan history to maintain internal democracy in the country. He may be dissatisfied over that, I may be dissatisfied over that, but it's the decision of the majority Central Committee of the SLP and UPFA.
Ms. Lakthilaka, the general notion is that the minorities voted in favor of President Maithripala Sirisena during the election. However, this election, do you think that the minorities will vote in favor of the UPFA?
Yeah, you are correct. You know, it's a different context, different situation, and the rational choice of the citizens would be utilized in different manner. So therefore, you may be correct when you say that certain minority votes may not come to SLP or the UPFA. But the issue is, you know that the president is doing his best to transform SLP to become more moderate, because you know, if you look at the situation in this country now, I like to take something what Ashoka has said. Now look at the context of Sri Lanka. Now 6 years back, the Sri Lanka managed to establish peace in this country after the war. Then, I mean, relatively we have become a peaceful country. There are issues. I am not saying that all the issues related to peace is over. It was done. Then, after the presidential election, we have managed to establish relative democracy, civilized society, humane society into this. That's why we are enjoying this, most of the election related peace these days, except today's incident in Kotaina. Then what is our challenge? Challenge is economy. Challenge is economy. Now it is stated that by another 3 years we are going to be able to extract gas. Now we are becoming a middle income country, right? So if you look at the logical extension from the Maitri Hetak is how we are going to develop our economy. But if you look at UNP economy, it's outdated. And JVP, if you look at the way with respect to my learned friend Krishmal, it's trying to fish out the parliamentary seats from the bubble water. Other than that, there's nothing.
Ms. Lakthilaka, we were talking about the minorities. I was asking you a question about whether UPFA will be able to garner the support of the minorities during the upcoming elections. The incident that took place in Yatinura, I want to drag your attention to that. Are you aware of what exactly happened in Yatinura?
No, I heard.
With regard to the distorted national flag that was...
yeah, I know that, yes.
And the Yatinura PS chairman was also arrested in connection with that, and he was released on bail. What is the assurance that the UPFA can give the minorities when things like this take place?
You know, the minorities have to believe the president, Maithripala Sirisena. Now look
at the UPFA.
Now, if you look at the history, all
the president is not contesting the upcoming elections.
He is not contesting, but he is one of the chairperson of one of the main constituent parties. So, if you look at the way, even recently, the way the president visited to Kilinochchi and Jaffna, and even in upcountry areas, the way he articulated the Sri Lankan problem, right? He has the empathy other than any of these leaders on this issue. He knows the gravity of the problem. So therefore, what I have to say is, because of the president, minorities, I am not saying vote for SLP or UPFA right now, but the future of the minority lies at SLP under
Thank you very much, Mr. Shrilal Lakthilaka, UPFA Nationalist candidate. Now I move on to Mr. Krishmal Varanasuriya. Mr. Varanasuriya, your election manifesto, it talks about people-friendly rule, high standard of human resources, modernized industrial country, a just society, and also promoting the liberal citizen concept. Correct? Yes or no?
That is.
However, your party does not talk about the national question. in the country. You all have never spoken about it, never been vocal about it. How can people rely on your party forming a government in the future? Not at the 17th August elections I'm talking about. In the future, you said your manifesto outlines more than 5 years. You are thinking about more than 5 years from now what your party is going to do. But you all don't talk about the national question in the country.
I mean, before I come to your question, may I inquire from you a housekeeping question? There are several questions that I need to address raised by my two friends on my left.
You will get
my 3 minutes going to start running now to answer your question?
You will get, your time starts now, and you will get an opportunity to speak about those issues as well, as the journalists would pose those questions to you in a minute.
So can I quickly tackle your question, because I need to cover a lot of ground. We do speak of the national question. We speak of an integrated solution to the entire question. We speak of a Sri Lanka within a unitary structure. We speak of, whilst after we implement the entire policy that we do, of doing away even with the provincial councils, but certainly devolution in another form of governance and making the village, the background, the rural areas more powerful. We speak of a panchayat and model government like India. So we've addressed a lot of issues, but I'm not going to delve too much into it because I need to clarify several issues raised by my friends on my left. Very quickly, I'll go to Mr. Abe Gunawardena. He said that why should we ask the people to vote for us if we want to remain in opposition? I never said that. Mr. Abe Gunawardena ended up by saying this is crazy. I want to start by saying what is crazy is this Shakespearean definition of those whose eyes that do not see. I have been saying this, I said it twice, he doesn't understand it. We are ready to form government. Our program is for the rest of the country, not just for 5 years from now. It's a program towards the entire project of recovering Sri Lanka from where it is, and Mr. Abe Gunawardena needs to read it properly and see where in that, or where I have said we want to get into government to form an opposition. That's not what we want to do. What we said is we are also a realistic party. We know that from 3 seats we cannot get 117 seats in 20 days. We know that progression is slow, and therefore we say, well, if you're not going to allow us to form government, make us a strong enough opposition in parliament so that we can check any government in office and do what is useful to the people, at the same time tackling what is not useful or what is corrupt. So I'm not going to take any more time on that, and I will not answer this question again, even if he raises this issue again, because I've answered it thrice now. So the next one is, I'll come to the last question he raised later. Mr. Laktilaka said that our policy, our economic policy was more or less the UPFA model. I don't know whether Mr. Laktilaka has gone through our policy and the UPFA policy very well. What I can say is we have very clearly specified in our policy that ours is certainly no social democratic model. Ours is a new socialist form and approach to economy, and we have said how we will uplift the rural economy, how we will uplift industry, how we will relook at modernization, industrialization, to make sure that we give enough impetus to uplift the economy. Very quickly, I'm looking at your clock now, Samir.
I'll give you 30 seconds more,
okay,
Mr.
Thank you. The last question that Mr. Abe Gunawardena raised was, he raised a very dangerous question. I asked the country to consider. He said, why should then we go to the polling booth if all these 3 policies are the same? There is no reason to go to the polling booth. I am telling the millions that are watching us out there, it took a long time for us to do the change on the 8th of January that we did, when several people were hiding behind, not for any other reason but purely out of fear for white lands. There were a few of us who rallied the ranks, and it was the people in this country, no one else, no government, no party that made the change on the 8th of January. You made that change. Go to the poll. Do not be dissuaded. This may be, I don't know, I hope Mr. Abe Gunawardena is not, but this may be another way of reducing the voter turnout on the 17th. No. Go to the polls. Do not forget that you won a freedom and democracy on the 8th of January that was hitherto thought impossible. You need to go there. Yes, we may have made mistakes. We may not have accomplished everything. We've come a little far. Let's go further. Make sure you go to the booth and vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Krishma Varansurya, JVP Nationalist candidate. I open the floor for questions from the journalists. Let's start off with Joe.
Yes, my question is going to be about election funding.
Who will direct the question to
Mr. Ashok. Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Ashok, I would like to ask you on this topic of election funding. Well, as soon as an election is called, candidates who are fielding to contest the upcoming election start calling for tenders. Okay. And also they start asking for favors, or then they also ask certain things from the public, right? Funding, let me call that election funding or election spending, right? Tenders are called and things are being requested by the candidate for their election campaigning. Well, hasn't an election funding ceiling been put up yet, saying this is the amount that you could spend, this is the maximum amount that you could spend on your election campaign? I would like to ask you this question.
Yes, now that's why we were discussing about electoral reforms, because funding is needed in a mass scale if we are to cover each and every candidate to cover a full district. So fixing upper limit or a cap is an issue in this setup. However, if you go with the draft proposal we had, and if we can fulfill that and change the electoral system, definitely we can include that. I have seen only in the UPFA manifesto stating that we should have a cap. So to that extent, I think UPFA has done something. But those who were promoting, I mean those who supported Maitri's election in January, they have not gone further in their manifestos. Now look at the UNP and JVP manifesto. Why they didn't go ahead with these election reforms, what were the issues, and how they are going to resolve that, it's not clearly stated in the statement. So if they tried, if they failed due to certain reasons, then they should have spelled it, this particular point we should to name, we should change. Those things are not mentioned. So that's what I am saying. Now these things, these caps should be formed not at the 20th amendment stage, but 20th amendment will follow election action laws. They can easily include that. So none of these two major parties, those who indirectly supported one of them directly supported UMP and JVP supported indirectly, they didn't say that the people should vote for Maitri. Still they were with them, so they have not clearly pinpointed why they couldn't do it 100 days and how they are going to do it next. So those things, I think, that's why I say that they have failed to convince the moderate or the floating vote for them to take a decision on this matter.
Mr. Lakthilaka, now a few years ago we saw you clamoring to reform the United National Party. We meet you today as a UPFA Nationalist MP. Even after this election, there will be MPs who cross over from one party to another. My question to you is there a mechanism that the UPFA has introduced or will introduce to stop this? Because clearly this is a usurpation of the people's mandate, the people's franchise.
Yeah, I mean, your question can be, I mean, very academic question, can be answered in two different ways. In Sri Lanka, this whole discussion is offsetted thing, my opinion. Your right to conscience has to be separated in first past the post system and PR system. How do you apply? FPP systems, right to conscience is not relevant. FPP systems, it is relevant. So in Sri Lanka, we have a now if you go back to the history of when 1978 Constitution was introduced, we were saying that you can't change the parties. Our argument, if you look at the Liberal Party argument or whatever the party arguments in 1978, 79, they were talking against that. But unfortunately, the way the parties handled, the parties who are in the power, in which they handle this issue, pushed us to take a stand that crossover is wrong.
Yes, we could.
Yes.
To just Shral, at the initial stage, Sonali, going to your question, at the initial stage of drafting the 19th Amendment, I was also invited to Temple Trees, and I was one of those 5 people who sat on the first draft. After a while, those calls.
So that proves that they have a connection with UNP.
No, I was invited as a lawyer. I never had a connection with JVP. I was not even nominated.
So Mr. Amaravan's allegation is proved.
I will not go into Mr. Amaravan's. Let's not go into that. But in the initial draft, we had this provision that if you cross over the seat, if you cross over the house, you lose your seat. And unfortunately, when the draft, as I said, after a while, I was not invited. I also didn't go to call Temple Trees. Temple Trees never called me, so I never took part in that after that. But however, reasons for that being aside, the next time I saw it, Sonali, was when we argued in the Supreme Court. When I was appearing for the JVP in the Supreme Court in the 19th Amendment that went to be for. Funnily, looking at the draft then, the entire thing was not there. What I saw in the first draft, Chiral, when it was there, had not been there. Can I just finish?
Yes.
Why? I asked the question, why? That shows, in my opinion, the conspiracy of both these main parties to leave room even after being elected from one side to jump over to the other side so that they can make their deals in the House. That is why they didn't want the provision to come in the Constitution.
No, I mean, I want to finish what I want to say. Now, this is very, that's why I said at the beginning, it's academic as well as political. Now, if you look at India, India has put forward very interesting, I mean, we have to argue, we have to develop this area, and you have to come out with a proper system, pragmatic system. Now, India, there is a provision under the Constitution, if the parties come up with a coalition which consists of more than 25% of the parliamentary representation, that then you can cross over. But otherwise, you can't do that.
The system.
Yeah, system, right? So then the speaker was empowered to work as a sort of arbitrator to decide whether crossover is correct or not. Right? Likewise, there are so many models in Sri Lanka, but unfortunately UNP has miserably failed to address this.
However, this happened, if you may recollect right, it was the former Minister Rohit Bogalagaman's crossover that was used as a precedent, Mr. Laktilaka, with regard to crossovers.
Yeah, I mean now there is another way of stopping this. That is the Supreme Court. Yeah. Supreme Court take a.
Can I just come in on this?
Yes.
Shami, that's a misconception. I don't know whether someone is giving the right advice to all the political parties. You know, Mr. Bogalagaman's case, there was an enjoining order taken in the district court, and that went up to the Supreme Court, and there they held that if you haven't been given a hearing, a proper hearing before the expulsion, then it is wrong on the principle of natural justice, and that is why that was held in that way in that case. But that does not mean that every case that goes before a district judge, he should give an enjoining order in every case where they cross over. I don't know why someone is not challenging, like Shiral says, in the Supreme Court and get a clear precedent in this.
Why didn't you challenge? You
come to me. If someone retains me, I go
as a public activist.
I can't file my own case. At least activists must be there for me to appear for.
Sonali, Shahan?
Yes.
Mr. Laktilaka, just to reflect on what Mr. Krishma said, when he's in the previous round he spoke to the people and he said, we may have made mistakes, give us another chance. Now this is a common statement made by almost every political party. Now this
is we may have made mistakes.
Yeah.
I said mistakes may have been made.
Okay, right.
But they have done mistakes.
That's what he said.
Right. So that is a common statement made by almost every political party.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
I am not a politician.
Hang on. That's a statement made by almost every political party in or after the election. Now this is certainly no girlfriend-boyfriend love affair to say give me another chance. This is about running a country. So
looks like.
Can they even dare to make such a statement? Give us another chance.
Yeah, you know this in Sri Lankan
I'm talking
politics.
about any political party.
Yeah, in Sri Lankan politics. It's a very peculiar set of politics happening in country for last several decades. Now look at this. Now you can't do that. Now we have seen certain individuals publicly stated they are going to apologize from this for electing or allowing Mahinda Rajapaksa to become somebody, but now they have gone. I mean, this is happening.
Who is the head of the UPFA operational committee now?
Yeah. Whatever. I don't know about that aspect, right? So what I am saying is, if you look at the way the political culture of this country, there is no responsibility involved with your public utterance. Not only public utterance, even in manifestos. Now look, my friend Krishma was talking about JVP manifesto, which has a contradiction, because if you are talking about socialist ideology, then you have to organize your manifesto along the lines of socialist line. not a revolution line. They have said we are not for revolution. Armed revolution. Now socialism. But if you look at the manifesto, analyze according to the standard ideologies, they are talking about liberal capitalism. Liberal democratic values.
Sorry, that's interpretation of
it's my interpretation. It's my interpretation. Then if you look at the UNP manifesto, so UNP is talking about liberal democratic values plus market economy. But now they are talking about social market economy. But if you read the content, the most of the economic stance they have taken are against the social market economy. So it may be the same in UPFA. What I am saying is, in Sri Lanka, you are not serious about ideologies. That's a problem. No political economic stand taken by, these are rhetorics. So nobody cares about manifestos. That is the reality.
So are you saying there are contradictions?
Contradictions everywhere. All 3 or 4. Now look at the even TNA. What TNA is talking? Right? Compared to last manifesto of TNA, last Provincial Council, compare, complete different. It's not going upwards, it's even going backwards.
Shiral, may I add something?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so now it's a very important question. Leaving aside parties for a side, leaving aside whom we represent for a side, that's a valid point. Forget his criticism of our policy, but manifestos need to be given a bit more seriousness with our people, for the simple reason, I think there are people who vote more with the heart than with intelligence. I'm sorry to say that. We are driven by emotion, we are driven by presents given to us, we are driven by අයියෝ අපේ මනුස්සයානේ මෙයාට අපේ තාත්තා ගැහුවානේ අපේ සීයා ගැහුවානේ මෙයාගේ අපේ සීයා මෙයාගේ සීයාට ඡන්දය දුන්නානේ. We have to get beyond that and look at the policy as it is, and if that happens, then parties will also start taking policies seriously. For example, I can say in developed world where judicial systems have developed, public law has now surpassed boundaries, Shiral, where people are actually thinking of taking political parties to court for not following what you promised the people. Simple argument. You promised us a policy and you came into power. You did not perform, therefore now I am taking you to court.
Mr. Krishmal, I would like to direct you this question. Well, you say change has to be brought and things have to be changed. How is the JVP going to work on this?
Sorry.
The statement which you just made.
Yeah.
How is the JVP going to work on this?
Change has to be
made.
You said change is needed.
Change meaning change of the thinking of the voter.
Yes. Yeah. How is the JVP acting towards this? How are you?
Once again, Joel, I need to move back to a policy. We've identified that the people need to look at how the economy can be restructured. In our view, once again, most social evils flow from the economic disparity. And we look at this as a wholesome program and not one by one. Therefore, we think if we address the people's consciousness, make that free man that I say, I can discuss it in detail, but a free man in thought, word, deed, and then in the social structure, in the environment that he works in. And that way you can address his ideology, and that will make a wholesome man. Right now the man is working from 4 in the morning, coming at 11 in the night, going to sleep for 5 hours and running again in the rat race the next day. He hardly has time to think of his child's education, leave alone about the country's policy. We need to make a man who has at least a couple of hours to go for a walk in the evening, enjoy the theatre, and we have addressed all of that in this as to how we make that man.
Mr. Orensuli, have you been able to go through the manifestos of the UPF and also the UNP?
I'm afraid, Shami, not in detail. I still haven't gone in detail. I've got a rough idea because I've gone for discussions like this a few times, but not in detail.
If your party is to support the formation of a government following the 17th of August, which party would the JVP support?
We have been very clear on that, Shamir. We are not going to support any government to form, any party to form a government. We are not going to be aligned to either of the forces to form a government. But that does not mean if the people give us sufficient power in Parliament for what is feasible and what can be achieved for the people's benefit, we will support that policy. We will take a decision as it comes. But we are certainly not going to be aligning ourselves to either side to make a government.
So it's a case like 2005. You would support and then move out if it's not based on the policies of...
2005 was a different scenario. There were reasons why I actually wanted to tackle that. I don't think I'm a fit and proper person to answer what happened in 2005 because I was not a member of this party then. Perhaps a party senior.
But now you are representing the party.
Now that I'm representing the party, 2005 in my opinion was a different scenario because there was a war that was being waged and there was a need to strengthen the government of the day, and even within those little 31 or 40 days that they were in the government, there were 5 ministries. I think the present leader of our party ran a fairly extensive ministry, and within those short days he performed and he showed how we can make differences. So I don't think we can compare 2005 to this scenario, but certainly this is going to be based on our principles that we have placed before the people, and if that supports the ultimate vision we have for Sri Lanka, we will support that policy.
Mr. Somawan Samarasinghe, who was the former leader of your party, made serious allegations about the Janata Vimukti Peramuna and stepped out.
Yeah.
True, false? You want to counter them?
Only Mr. Amarasinghe will know, as Mr. Laktilaka said, referred to it. I have great respect for the man as a former leader of the party, and I don't want to cast aspersion on the individual. But let me just speak of that entire lot that Mr. Abeyewardene also referred to, saying there are 5 fractions of the JVP. There are no fractions of the JVP. The JVP is one party. The JVP, even if it is brought down to 1%,
breakaway fractions. Is that right?
They may have been breaking away. But if they no sooner they are broken away, they are no longer JVP, neither do we want to identify themselves as JVP. So they may have broken away.
Considered as traitors.
I don't consider anyone a traitor, but no sooner are they no longer a part of our policy, we don't even need to discuss about them. But as regards Mr. Amarasinghe, you know, as I said, I have a great respect for the man, so I hate to say this, but he appears to go around making several allegations. Now, for example, he has alleged that because I went on IVLP to the United States, that I was an American conspirator, and now this statement has been made publicly on another channel, and I only respond to it. If Krishma Varnasuri was selected for Future Leaders Program is a conspirator, then Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, Mr. Ratnasinghe Wickremesinghe, and Mr. R. Premadasa, who went on the same program in 1956, 1983, 1989, they also need to be conspirators. They also went on my same program. So as to what Mr. Amarasinghe is saying, I really don't want to respond to. As far as I'm concerned, the JVP cannot be broken away by anyone, however big they are. I still have a lot of respect for him, and I don't know whether you will give me time. I found a lot of respect for him during the 2009-10 time when he was a leader, 2007.
But not anymore.
But no. I respect the man as a man now. I still want to maintain that respect. But I had a lot of respect for him as a leader then, and I don't want to lose that by casting any aspersions, because I would still like to respect him as a leader of a day. But I really think he ought to evaluate what he makes statements when he resigns.
Mr. Abeyewardene, individuals, when they go to the polling booth, must they vote for the political party or the individuals?
Definitely not to the individual, actually. Now, firstly, now we have to take a decision about which political party we are voting. That's the first step. So that we need to understand each and everyone's role. So that's what I am saying, that the society is expecting something from each and every party. Now, just to respond to you about the discussion on once Shiral said that, well, he supported and I too supported Maitri, and at the same time can we with the UPFA. Now it's altogether a different ball game. Like it's like T20. If presidential election is a T20 game, then the general election is like a test match, because we have a freedom there. Now the minority groups, I mean, those communities can vote for different parties because they know that they can be elected and they can proceed. So it's a different ball game altogether. The rules are different, so we need to have different approaches. While supporting Maithripala Sirisena during the presidential election, still a particular individual can support UPFA. There's no question about that. But the question is, has UPFA attended to their issues, and they have adequately addressed for us to go and vote for them? That's the issue. So political decisions, it's political. So I don't think actually bulk of the voters, they don't vote for an individual. They generally vote for the political party and then decide if there's a preference for the individual, then they decide about the individual. So it's purely, I think, I'm not, I mean, some of those were criticizing the voters' behavior. I think Sri Lankan voter is very well prepared for these types of elections, and they know their roles. So generally voters vote for a political party. Then if they have the freedom only, they will think of an individual.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We move on to the final round in a bit. We go for a short commercial break. When we come back, we are in conversation with Mr. Krishma Varanasuriya, Mr. Shiral Laktilaka, and Mr. Asoka Abe Gunawardana. Stay connected. Stay with Face the Nation. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation, the final round. We'll start off with Mr. Asoka Abe Gunawardana, Chairman of the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency. Mr. Abe Gunawardana, we've been in conversation for nearly 1.5 hours now. Have you at least made a decision now?
Well, if the situation prevails, then we have no choice. There's no need for us to go to the polling booth and vote, or if not, then I have to go to and reject the vote. Why? If I am to vote for UNP, then they should clearly show, I mean, they have time, let's say 2 weeks, we have 2 more weeks to take a decision. If I am to vote for UNP, then UNP should clearly show that, well, I have a core issue with their constitution, their own political party constitution. That leads to these issues like the central bank governance issue and other stuff, because it's a dictatorial type leadership there. So if they are not willing to be more democratic, then I don't think I have a way for me to vote for UNP. And for UPFA, if I am to vote for UPFA, then they definitely should show that they have understood the issues previously, the previous issues, and they are ready to rectify. Well, to a certain extent, I agree that they have addressed certain issues in their manifesto, but what they are preaching at the stage and what they are discussing in the media conferences, it's some completely opposite. So they need to align. I think for us, fortunately we have the president, Maithripala Sirisena. So to a certain extent, whether a particular party wins or not, we have, as the moderate voters or the floating voters, we can expect something in the future. But if you are to vote for UPFA, then UPFA should clearly show that they are no more with this, they are not no more marketing Mahinda Rajapaksa, but they should be aligned with Maithripala Sirisena clearly. Then only we can think of voting for them. They have time, 2 weeks left. If possible, if they can show, then we have an opportunity. For JVP, I think if they are going to stay in the opposition, there's no case for us to vote for them, because we need a stable government. So we cannot continue as that happened in the last 6 months. We need to have a stable government. Yes, JVP can play a proactive role there, but they should frame, reorganize themselves to be a part of the government. Otherwise, I don't think the floating voters or individuals like myself can go to the polling booth and vote for.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abe Gunawardana. I just want to remind our viewers, you have to exercise your franchise at the end of the day, because you have to elect a parliament. Go to the polling booth on 17th of August, and please keep in mind that a strong opposition is also needed if democracy is to prevail in the country. I now move on to Mr. Shiral Laktilaka, UPFA nationalist candidate. There seemed to be a division, according to what Mr. Abe Gunawardana said, within the UPFA right now. What must the people keep in mind when they go to the polling booth? Who are they voting for? The president or the former president?
I would suggest that most appropriate decision would be to look at the president. That's why at the beginning I mentioned this at the outset of my discussion. Look at the president, look at the 19th Amendment, look at the constitutional arrangement, and see who is going to govern this country for next 5 years. Not a prime minister. It is quite sure, it's quite obvious, this government, this state is governed by the president. 19th Amendment introduced certain constitutional changes. Although there are certain changes, it is quite obvious that president is going to govern this country. So under the president, according to the 19th Amendment, president will form a government. The government is helping president, and president is giving the leadership to govern the country. So that is very simple truth. So in that context, any voter who look at or think about stability of this country must think whom should be elected to the parliament in order to support the president's mandate. So if you elect a group against the mandate of the president, then you are creating a conflict, you are creating a confrontation, you are creating anarchy. So therefore, most important thing is to look at that aspect. Second is, we are heading for future. Sri Lanka is heading for future. So economically, socially, culturally, environmentally, we are heading. So in that way, we have a bright future. Bright future means strong, stable government.
Before we move on to Mr. Varunasuriya, Mr. Laktilaka, a very quick question to you. I remember in November and December last year, you were saying that there was a fierce psychosis in the country because of the UPFA regime, and now you are saying vote for the UPFA again. What is the assurance you can give to the people of Sri Lanka that we won't slide back again to that situation?
Assurance is the president. He is the chairman of the SLP.
Thank you very much, Mr. Laktilaka. Now we move on to Mr. Varunasuriya. You said during a speech or the conversation that we were having with you that change is needed. What is the change you envisage on the 17th of August? Your time starts now.
Thank you. Since the last 2 minutes that I have, I'm going to rush through this, but at the same time trying to make it as elaborate as possible. Article 3 of the Constitution of this country vests absolute sovereign power in you, the citizen of this country. It's inalienable. No one can take it away. Article 4 says that for a period, you vest this sovereign power in public trust, on certain institutions. One is a legislature. That legislature you are going to elect on the 17th of August. Are you happy that the votes that you have cast the last 67 years between green to blue and blue to green have done the needful? If you are not, listen to us. Here is the accord of conscience. If you can't understand it, speak to one of us. There will be any JV member anywhere that you live. Call us, email us, enter a dialogue with us. We have a program for the future of this country. If you believe that 67 years of government have not given you what you need, well, this is what we aim to do, no matter what people say. A government of the people, truly. A developed human resource and capital. A modernized, industrialized nation. A just society. And finally, a free man. Now, we have proven what we can do with 3 people in parliament. You see us every day. You see the leader of our party, Ms. Andrew Kumari Sanayak, shouting for your rights. Imagine what 10, 15, 20, 25 of us could do. We are certainly not saying let us not form government. We will, and we will form government in 2020. But let us be a major force to be reckoned with this time. And you give us that sovereign power, and you will see as to what we will do for you. Can I quickly finish? John Adams, a political philosopher later to be president, was asked in the French court of Louis once as to why, it was a time America was seeking independence and recognition by international fora. Why are you wasting so much time in talking politics from morning till night in this court? France is out there, the gay Paris is out there, the arts are out there, culture is out there. Go spend some time, look at painting. And he said, Madam, I talk politics today so that my son and daughter may talk maths and science, so that one day their son and daughter may come to France and enjoy the arts and culture. I'm asking you, let us talk politics on the 17th. Be with us, and the JVP will show you the way as to what we can do in Sri Lanka, what 67 years of turnover politics have not done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Varunasuriya. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Mr. Asoka Begunwardana, Mr. Shiral Laktilaka, and Mr. Krishmal Varunasuriya. I hope to see you all in Parliament after the 17th of August. Let's hope that the people of this people of this country would exercise their vote wisely. I want to leave you this evening with a quote by the former President of India, also late Dr. Abdul Kalam. He said something very interesting to the younger generation. He said, my message, especially to the young people, is to have the courage to think differently. Remember, when you go to the polling booth on the 17th of August, you have the power to elect the next parliament. You have the power to elect a group of individuals who are going to be the deciding factor about this future generation of this country. The future generation is in your hands. Remember, Sri Lanka has to move forward. Sri Lanka has to have intelligent people in parliament who would decide the future of this very country. Thank you very much for joining us. Next week, same time, same place. This is Face the Nation.